title project says summertime, quite like an Adirondack chair. And this Adirondack chair plan ran originally in Woodworkers Journal's pages back in 1986. You can download that original article and all of the measured drawings because they're attached to this custom e-zine. But back at that time, we kept our construction steps very limited and we weren't shooting video. Well, we've decided to bring back this classic Woodworkers Journal plan, complete with fully updated instructions, tips for building the chair, and an extensive video that shows you every step of the process. We're going to do it as a two-part series. So why don't you round up some good exterior lumber? Let's head on back to the shop and build a chair for your yard. Even if you only plan on making one or two of these Adirondack chairs, it's a good idea to start with some rigid templates for the curved parts. That way you only have to figure out the complex curves once when you're making your templates, and you can use the templates for tracing out your workpieces and template routing them to final shape. And if you ever decide to make more of these chairs, and you probably will, just pull your templates out and they'll be ready to go. Make one template for the arm shape, one template for the seat frame, and we'll also use a template for the back slats. Now the drawings that are linked to this custom e-zine give you most of the information you'll need for making your templates. But here's a little bit of clarification about the seat frame. There's a foot on the back of the seat frame that tips the seat frame up at an 18-degree incline. Here's an easy way to draw that angle. Make a mark 3 inches up from the bottom back corner of your template blank and 9 1/4 inches over from the bottom. Connect those 2 points together with a diagonal line. It'll be 9 3/4 inches long, which is the length of the foot, and it will also establish that 18-degree incline. Now there's a notch at the top of your template for the back frame, and it will tip the back of the chair at 75 degrees to make it more comfortable to sit against. Now to draw that 75-degree angle, just take your table saw's miter gauge, set it at 75 degrees, and use it as a layout guide for drawing that 75-degree line. Grid out the first 18 inches of your seat frame in 1 by 1 inch squares so you can draw this complex curve shape for the seat. Make the high point of that curve 5 inches back from the front of your template and the lowest point of the seat 13 inches back. Then use a flexible strip of wood or masonite bent to shape to draw the curves on your seat frame and your arm template. Use the drawings and measurements provided on the PDF plan to help you lay out the template shapes. Baltic birch plywood or MDF are both good materials for making templates, as their thicknesses are void-free. That'll make tracing and template routing easier and more accurate. Cut the templates out with a jigsaw and sand them to your layout lines on an oscillating drum sander or with sanding drums in your drill press. Next, mill enough 3/4 inch thick stock for all of the chair parts. Trace the 2 seat frame pieces with your template and cut them to rough shape with the jigsaw. Cut just outside of your layout lines. Now template route the seat boards to final shape. This is easy to do either at the router table or with a handheld router. Secure the template to the workpiece with strips of double-sided tape and use a flush trim bit to follow the template. Make sure the bit's bearing is about centered on the template thickness so it will follow the shape accurately. Once the seat frame pieces are template routed, use a file to clean up the inside corner of the lower seat frame notch where the router bit couldn't reach. It's also a good time to mark the outside faces of the seat boards with the front leg locations now, while the parts can still be laid flat. The front edge of the front leg is 4 inches from the front end of the seat board. Use a miter gauge to draw a pair of parallel lines to set the front leg at the proper pitch for the chair's angled seat assembly. Set the gauge to 72 degrees. Next, rip and cross-cut the back stretcher and the 11 seat slats to size. Use a 1/8 inch roundover bit in your router table to soften the top edges and ends of the seat slats. Fasten the back stretcher between the seat frames and 1 seat slat to the front bottom end to hold the seat frame assembly together. Use weather-resistant or stainless steel 2-inch deck screws. Attach the 10 remaining seat slats with 2-inch screws driven into countersunk pilot holes. Space the slats 3/8 of an inch apart. A dowel cut into short pieces is a handy way to lay out the position of these slats and keep them spaced while you're driving the screws. With the seat subassembly completed, Rip and cross-cut the front and back legs to size, as well as the front stretcher. Then trim the top ends of the back legs to a 33-degree angle. Make these cuts at a miter saw or at the table saw using a miter gauge. Fasten the front stretcher between the front legs so its top edge is 6 3/4 inches up from the bottoms of the legs. Center the stretcher on the width of the legs. Now stand the front leg assembly on your work surface and slide the seat frame down inside the legs. Rest it on the front stretcher. Align the legs with the layout lines you drew previously on the seat frames and clamp the parts together. The back feet of the seat frames should rest flat on the floor or your work surface. With that setup secured, you're ready to drill a pair of 1/4-inch pilot holes through each leg and seat frame for the 2-inch carriage bolts that will secure these parts. Tap the carriage bolts into place and use a washer, lock washer, and nut to tighten the hardware. Install the back legs the same way, and so the sharp tips at the tops of these 2 legs point inward toward the chair back. The back legs should butt against the back face of the back stretcher. Secure the back legs with single 2-inch carriage bolts.